Welcome to the Dadlit Pod, the literary podcast for people who are making great time on the way to Grandma's house. Today we have educator and Dadlit double threat, Brandon Dower. Brandon is a reviewer of books and a father of four. You can find him on Twitter/X at the handle at dad_Saturday, where he does weekly book reviews on Goodreads. You can also sign up for his new newsletter like myself, and learn the comings and goings of Brandon's book reviewing. Brandon, welcome to the Dadlit Pod.
Awesome, man. Thank you for having me.
Well, to be honest, I'm having you back. Brandon was officially the first Dadlit Pod guest and is kind enough to come back after I had a computer mishap and his interview got deleted. And since then, I have now officially everything goes to the cloud. It all goes to the cloud, all recordings.
Beautiful.
So, Brandon, tell me about your new newsletter.
So, this is something that has come out of me doing my weekly reviews. And I can't take credit for the idea. My youngest brother is he's real savvy when it comes to keeping up with like business trends and marketing and stuff like that. And he's I got to give him credit too. He's the one that got me started with the review stuff, and he kind of came up with this idea like, hey man, I'm doing some projects on the side using this platform called Beehive. And he's like, I think it would be really cool to expand your reviews and kind of go more in depth on the book that you review each week. And he's like, we could do more than just the review. He's like, you could put a summary in there. You could do like an author spotlight. He's like, we can keep tabs on what you're reading and keep a running list of all the stuff that you've read and reviewed. And he's like, and then you can throw in some like musings on dad life and stuff like that, and what it's like to be, an educator and a dad of four. So it's still very much a work in progress. We're getting ready to launch on April 18th is going to be the first issue of Saturday Dad Reads. And we're looking to, like I just said, we're going to have a summary of each book. We're going to have a review in there. We're going to have some also dig a little deeper into, if the book brings up something on like a side tangent, like, hey, if you'd like to know more, like stuff like that. And just try to market it to not just dads, but parents in general who are looking for, stuff that might pique their interest, but, they might not necessarily have the time to sit down and, work their way through a 300, 400 page book. And if we can get people interested in reading and, you know, getting them exposed to literature, if they see, if they're reading and their kids see them having fun reading as well, it just benefits everybody in the long run.
So I think you've hit on this that there is an inspiration behind this active, this very active review life that you've undertaken. What would you say is the big thing that's convincing you to be out there reviewing books? And then I'm going to tell you why it's great for authors,
Sure.
because I want you to know how appreciated it is.
Yeah, man. So really I started off my Twitter handle. I got to give you a little backstory here. So I started off my Twitter handle. Originally, I was not Saturday Dad. My initial Twitter handle was Lenny from Brookline, and really all I did was try to troll different Pittsburgh sports media outlets with just ridiculous takes on stuff. And again, going back to my younger brother giving me this idea of like, hey man, he's like, you ever think of, you read so much. You ever think of just posting like reviews on Twitter and just putting your thoughts out there? He's like, people read that stuff. People are into it. There's like a little niche out there that you could fit into. So I was like, you know what? I'll give it a shot. So 2 summers ago, I got into it and started posting reviews, and I very nearly gave up on it. because I was still posting these book reviews as Lenny from Brookline. So like nobody, I wasn't getting any kind of traction, no kind of traffic or anything like that. So I opted to go for the name change, and the name came from I'm a huge Barstool sports fan. I listen to Pardon My Take every week, and my wife, I was trying to get her to buy me a Saturdays are for the dads sweatshirt, and that Barstool makes, and she goes, there's your new Twitter name. I was like, what are you talking about? She goes, Saturday Dad. That's the new Twitter. I was like, okay. So I took it and I ran with it. So now to get us to where we are now, I continue to do this because of the connections that I've made with people online. And for me, originally, it was like, it was just kind of something fun to see if maybe I could get to interact with an author, because that would have been something cool for me to do. And, like I said, I very nearly gave up on things. And it was 2 Decembers ago, I reviewed a book called Ozark Dogs by Eli Craner. And fantastic read. Highly recommend it. 10 out of 10, man. But he was the first author that when I posted my review, I tweeted at him and included him in the tweet. And he responded and was like so appreciative of, the review and stuff like that. And I couldn't believe it. Like, wow, I just made contact with this person whose book I read. And like they were appreciative of the thing that I did. And I just started from that point on, like I just kept going. Because like I said, I was at that point where I was like, do I really want to keep doing this? Like, yeah, I'm still gonna keep reading, but I don't know if I want to keep doing the review game. But after that, I got a lot more traffic, a lot more followers, and I really have to credit him with like jump starting this whole thing. And really, it's to kind of long-windedly get back to your original question. I started to do it because of the connection with people, and just having the opportunity to talk to somebody who, I'm enjoying this thing that you poured your lifeblood into. I'm holding it in my hands. It's giving me hours of enjoyment. What very simple thing could I do outside of purchasing the book, but putting a little bit of good press out there and just telling you how much I enjoyed it.
Well, I could tell you that that's insanely meaningful for any author. And I've noticed since starting to do this podcast that particularly dude authors love talking about their books. There's a there I it If the show could go on for 3 hours, it would.
Yeah.
They love talking about literature. They don't just love talking about their books. They love talking about all the other books that they love as well.
Yeah.
And so I've been struck by this noble undertaking that you're pursuing, and just how I wanted you to know, it's just I cannot imagine anything more flattering and helpful.
Cool.
Because as I'm sure you know, when it comes to things like Goodreads or Amazon, those reviews actually matter when it comes to elevating books
Yeah.
in within the sort of online marketplace algorithm. And so what you're doing is you're doing a real service to authors. And it doesn't surprise me that authors would reach out and respond, because that I find that when I reach out to them, they respond and are really excited,
Yeah.
particularly those in the up and coming dad lit genre that we're slowly creating with every podcast.
Yeah, man.
So, so give me give me a sample of one of your reviews. Now you've read uh, Josh Mallerman's Bird Box was
Yeah.
last week's read. So give me a sample of what your review brings and what you had from your takes of Josh Mallerman's Bird Box.
All right. So that was the first of Josh Malloran's books that I've read. And it was one that I've had on my to read list for a long time. And when he just recently published Incidents Around the House, I think is his most recent novel.
Yeah, I've read that one.
Okay. So I saw Bird Box when that came out, his whole archive kind of like got some more love. So I finally like it was a tough book to get from the library because it's super popular still. I finally was able to grab it from the library, and you know, from a psychological horror standpoint, the thing I love about this book is it plays upon one of like our true deep fear, and that's the inability to see and having to go on in life without the use of your sense of sight. Because in the book, um, there is something that is outside. We don't ever know what it is, which is another hallmark of the novel. You never actually get to see what it is, but that thing is just always lurking there in the background. And if you look at it, you go crazy and you die. So it's like this global pandemic has gripped the world, but there's these few hardcore of survivors that have managed to figure out that if we keep ourselves blindfolded and we cover up all the windows and we never see an ounce of daylight, we'll be able to survive. And it really plays upon, like, for me, thinking back to COVID, like it was tough enough to like not leave the house, but like trying to imagine, okay, I can't leave my house, but yet if I can't even look out the window, I can't see natural light because something out there might kill me. So it really plays upon like some deep seated fear. Um, and like I said, you never really get to see what that thing is that's out there. So it's always there. This is always unknown. But the other hallmark to it too is in terms of the overall narrative structure of the book is he's almost telling two stories at once. And I've seen authors try to do this before, and it takes a fair amount of skill, in my opinion, to really pull it off. And he truly pulls this off. You have the main plot line of the main character trying to leave their area of sanctuary and seek out this new sanctuary where there's other survivors. So they're making this journey. But at the same time, while that is progressing, you're constantly going back and getting fed these little bits and pieces to where you're getting caught up all the time to where the narrative actually is in real time. And I've seen a lot of times like the main plot line, when authors try to do that, the main plot line become at some point becomes a focus, right? Or the backstory becomes the focus. In this case, they both get equal measure. And honestly, the backstory is still going up until the last few chapters of the novel when it finally resolves itself. So the structure of it is fantastic as well. And just the element of fear is present throughout the entirety of the book. So, for I had, I remember when the movie came out, thinking, all right, that kind of looks, that's not for me. I'm not, people wearing
You were
blindfolds, like,
like
come on, that's not for me.
Sandra had me in Speed
Yeah,
and maybe
I was like,
even Cruise Control,
yep.
but
So I was
now too
not
far.
with the blindfold, but like, it's just it's so, and from what I've seen too, the movie diverges from the book in a big way. So there's that, and but after I started reading it, man, by the time I hit like page 50, I was hooked. Like you get to a point where you just can't turn the pages fast enough. Like
Mm.
it's a great read.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. Well, look, I'm glad that proved successful. I have had mixed. I read Incidents Around the House,
Okay.
which I liked, and then there's another one that's about a tower and all the kids in the tower have names associated with letters of the alphabet.
Okay.
And that one I DNF'd. I feel
Got it.
bad. I started it, but I'm like, oh man, I can't tell the difference between any of these kids
Hmm. Well,
because their
well,
names are just the first letter of the alphabet. And I'm
ooh,
like, oh, was that
well,
L or was that A,
so
D?
that might be a common theme in some of his books because
Okay.
inside of Bird Box, you have the main character, Mallory, who is a mom, strong female protagonist. But then there's also two young kids. I think they're like 3, 4 years old, maybe 3 and 5,
Yep.
but their names are boy and girl. So
There you go.
not very big on the naming conventions, um, but it's it's the like I said, the level of creepiness is there from the start. Like when you start reading the first chapter, like you want to know the backstory. The way
Yeah.
he describes this house that has been this woman and these two kids sanctuary for years. You want to find out, man, what the heck happened to like get it to that point.
Yeah.
And the way he describes it, like it's almost like it's bad what happens, like and how they got to that point, but the way he describes it makes you think it's like way worse. So
Yeah.
it's pretty powerful.
Yeah, so I think incidents around the house and this other book are definitely about family.
Okay.
So I think that I would technically consider Josh Mallerman a dad lit author in that he writes about dads.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it sounds but I don't know, is Bird Box dad lit?
Well, I would say yes. Here's why. Um the the main character, Mallory, um she's a strong female protagonist in the book. And one of the hallmarks to dad lit is the strong dad character, the big strong protector.
Yep.
She's got to almost serve a dual role. And in the story, not only she's not very nurturing, and her
Well,
approach.
she just named one of the kids boy and the other kid
Yeah.
girl.
So she's but she's very much in that like strong defensive role in like the almost like the mama bear papa bear type role, like protect my kids at all costs.
Yes.
So there's that. But also I would argue that the kids play a very valuable role too, in that they are they are products of their environment in the book, and they contribute to their overall like their she's almost relying on them to get them to where they need to be because
Yeah.
they have grown up in this environment where you can't look outside. And so she's trained them almost like a military like discipline, to where like wear your blindfold, and they use their sense of hearing to see almost. So it's almost like Daredevil. Like they got, there's not a supernatural thing where like they can see sonar and stuff like that, but they've grown up in this environment where they've had to rely on just their sense of hearing. So
Yeah.
she's reliant upon them to be her eyes and ears while she provides the muscle to get the boat down the river to where they're going. But at the same time, like she's got to defend them too. So she's kind of fulfilling that dual role of mom and dad.
Oh, interesting. So how do you rate the 1 to 5 stars?
I'm going to be making a shift here. So once the newsletter drops, we're going to use a cup of coffee scale. Um,
Is it empty to full?
so here's my thinking, right?
Yeah.
And I'll give you side note, right now it's like out of 10, and I use the generic stars on Twitter. But coming
Yes.
with the newsletter with the cups of coffee, my idea is this. I'm never gonna rate a book lower than a 3 out of 5. And the
Yep.
reason being is I can't, number one, I'm not a published author. So I'm not going to crap all over somebody's stuff, something that they've poured themselves into. That's not fair for me to do when I'm not on that same level. And number three, or number two, I just can't, I don't want to put that negative energy out there. So we're going as low as we're going to go is three. And three is like, hey, get a cup of coffee. You're going to enjoy it. A four is pour yourself an extra cup and block out some time. You're going to want to keep this going. And then five is like make the full pot, send the kids to grandma's, like clear your schedule for the rest of the day.
Yeah, it's gonna be hot. It's
Yeah.
gonna be hot. Yes. You see, this is a thing that I've thought about a lot as a person who's now written manuscripts is I don't think that I'm ever going to be Don DeLillo or any fine art literary mastermind.
Hmm.
So oftentimes what I ask my beta readers, and this is what I say, is the action clear and did you want to keep reading?
Hmm.
Because if you wanted to keep reading and the action was clear, I think it is by default good.
Yeah.
That is what to me defines good. Uh, be there's an element of taste to be put in there. I think some people have different tastes
Hmm.
than me, and I think that's fine. But if you understand what's going on and it's communicated clearly, and you were willing to pick it up over and over and over again to see what happens, that to me indicates that the author has produced something that can be considered good.
Yeah.
Just at its base, they've done a good job. Now, as to what makes great, I'm sort of one of these people that believes that taste is what makes great great. I
Hmm.
could see very easily where someone would just hate something that I would just be in love with. And that's just the nature of my what I like, what I think is funny, those sort of things.
Sure.
So I think that's an excellent scale. I think that communicates really effectively how you feel about the books, and I'm looking forward. I'm looking forward to catching some cups of coffee. So
Yeah,
what are
man.
you giving? What are you giving Bird Box in this case?
Oh man, so this would be probably a 4.75, maybe closer to a 5 for sure.
Oh, nice.
Just like you said, man, like I kept coming back to it. It was one that
Hmm.
like when I'm away, I was away, if I'm at work, where I lean towards a 5 with a book is if I'm thinking about it when I'm at work. Like where
Yep.
I'm like, man, I wonder what's gonna happen like when I crack that book open tonight. Like what's gonna happen?
Yep.
And I found myself like thinking about that. Like I'm thinking about, okay, are they gonna make it? Like what's gonna
Let's
happen?
hope
Like
they
I
make
can't
it.
wait to like get back and finish this book. Like, and it's one of those things where I'm like, all right, dinner's done. Bath time's done. Homework's done. Let's okay, go to bed. Dad needs to read. Like it's one of those like I want to get to it. So and I found that with that, like I was truly looking forward to getting back to it every day. So I would say it's if it's not a 5, it's pretty darn close.
Yes, nice. Well, look, I love it. And I can't wait. So that's April 18th is when
Yes,
that
sir.
that first newsletter. And how what is the best method of getting on that list?
So I have to make some edits to my Twitter bio. So I'm gonna drop the link in my Twitter bio here. Probably over the course of this weekend is crazy week. It's the obligatory spring concert season, and all my kids play instruments. So we've got all that going on this week. So my time on social media is gonna be limited this week, but I'm gonna be dropping it in there. But if you're listening to this now and you want to get a jump start and you want to get signed up, I pinned my weekly review to top of my Twitter page. So my review of Bird Box is pinned to my page now, and there's a couple of replies to the review. And if you're looking to do it, the link is in the replies.
Okay, awesome. Now, this is another thing. Uh, we're going to get back to the fact that you have four kids that play instruments, because that's going to be just. Do you have another wing in the house where you put them
So
where they're practicing?
so right now, two of them are actively playing. Um,
Oh,
three of
okay.
three of the four have played. My youngest, my son, he's too young yet. He's just in kindergarten.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
but my two middle daughters, they're currently both playing. One plays the violin, the other one plays the viola. And I
Oh,
try
well,
to
those are harmonious and delightful instruments.
Man, you know what? I have to say this. I have to say before I say something negative. What I have to say is it's been cool to see the growth
Oh,
because
okay.
they're they when they started, it was like listening to cats fight in an alleyway. But now it's been really cool to see like they in the school district that we go to, they start in fourth grade. And from fourth grade to fifth grade is like this massive change in their abilities and ability to read music and actually play the
Yeah.
instrument. So it's been cool to see that growth. But like I said, when they first started, man, it was rough. It was real rough.
I feel
But
like a viola is a big upfront instrument to give to a fourth grader.
yeah,
Is it,
yeah.
am I thinking that right? Viola is a big instrument,
Well,
right?
viola is like a larger violin.
Yeah, okay.
So I mean, it looks big when my daughter holds it. No,
It's,
but yeah. So like but they always pick like the worst time of day to like open up the case and like get the music stand out, and they want to do it right in the middle of the living room. So like, come on, like you have a room, like go upstairs. And if they go upstairs, one of them's in the room already because they share a room, and then they fight about who has the room, and it's just a. So I end up defaulting to letting them practice in the middle of the living room. So
yeah.
yeah,
Nice,
it's been
nice.
cool to it's been cool to see that growth, and I hope that they stick with it. My oldest, she did it for a year. Wasn't for her; she didn't stick with it.
Hmm.
But she's found her own niche with things, so it's all good.
So this is my next question. How many sports are your kids doing? Because my neighbor has three kids and they each play a different sport.
Ooh,
And to me, that's basically just like an unholy nightmare. And so I'll say this. My wife insisted that we get our daughter involved in soccer.
okay,
And I have to say I'm quite thrilled.
okay,
And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. Because I experienced this on Saturday. My daughter has been raised with cooperative games. So she is 4 years old. And when you're 4 years old, they don't really get you out there, tackle. It's not all full contact,
yeah,
sort of tackle. So to her, the competitive element of this soccer game, even with like 4 year olds in the low stakes realm, is completely mystifying. She's really struggling to wrap her mind around the idea that someone might want to take the ball from her
yep,
instead of communicating a desire to receive the ball. And so, to my mind, I'm just thrilled. This is
yeah,
great
yeah,
because if we had kept going with cooperative games, she would have been 10 years old and I would have been playing catch with her in the back. And okay, well, we got to go play some ball. And no, I would like to play cooperative catch. No monkey in the middle. It's et cetera, et cetera. So I'm hoping that it will instill in her a sense of the competitive spirit. But it
yeah,
did not work out on Saturday. There were tears. There were
yep.
tears. She came off the field. Why didn't they pass to me to get the goal? Why did they interfere with that? And I'm like, Gretchen, that's not how this game is played. That's not that's not how we play this one.
Nope.
But don't worry, because you're gonna get better every week,
yep.
and that's what's important.
You know what? And
So
you're 100% right there, man. That was so. My and firstly, you're not alone in the tears coming off the field. I got
Oh
them from
yeah.
my son back in the fall, so that's perfectly normal. So you're not alone there. So he does. My son does soccer in the fall, and then my two older daughters, they are more involved with like the arts and music and stuff like that.
Okay.
But my youngest daughter, is like she's my athlete. Like when I like she's built for it. She's super competitive, and she's going to be starting um, volleyball here in April. So she's tall, she's lanky, like she's built. She's got the volleyball like basketball build.
Yep.
So I'm hoping that that she sticks with that. And my son enjoyed soccer, but like you said, struggled with the whole idea of if someone takes the ball, buddy, go get it back. Like it's okay for you
Yeah.
to take it
Yeah.
back from them.
It's not just they're upset that it got taken from them. They're upset that they have to go and take it.
Yes.
They perceive that because of the sort of nature of early childhood
Yeah.
education. They perceive it as doing something harmful to somebody
Right.
else, and so they have to like sort of develop this idea and to understand that it's meant to be fun, that the competitive nature of the experience is fun, and it's a way to sort of build respect for other people, and also to understand limitations and fair
Mhm.
play and all of those things. So I gave it to my wife. She made the right decision,
Yeah.
and I did not want to wake up every Saturday and do soccer every Saturday morning. But seeing it, I recognized the value of it,
Oh, yeah.
and wholeheartedly support it. I think sports are super important. Did you play anything in high school?
Yeah, so but my wife and I were both athletes. I played soccer my whole life. I played into college, and
Hmm.
actually had the opportunity to that's like how I got into education. I had the opportunity to be a grad assistant at the college I went to on the soccer team, and got into education through coaching. And my wife played basketball at a pretty high level when she was younger too. So like we're both former retired athletes now. I tell people I'm a retired Division three athlete.
Retired. Yep.
So
Same.
um,
Same.
but
I am also a retired Division 3 athlete. Yep.
beautiful.
Yep. It's
Yeah,
it,
we have taken the approach when it comes to like our kids in sports that like we want them to be involved in something. Whatever that something is, they have the power to determine that based on what they're interested in. If
yep.
we start something, we're going to finish it. That's the other big thing. Because I can very distinctly remember. I'll be honest with you. My brother that I referenced earlier in the podcast, of the three of us siblings, he was the best athlete of the three of us, and probably could have played soccer at a really high level in college, and maybe even had like a semi-pro career. Go after the fact, but he had played at a really high club level as a kid, and when he was done with high school he was like, you know what, I'm done. I'm burnt out. I'm
Yeah.
done with
Yeah.
soccer. And I don't want my kids to, I don't want them to feel that way. And I,
Yep.
I don't want them to I don't want them to have regrets about, man, I wish, I'm so mad that my dad forced me to go to soccer practice when I was like 12, and like we were driving
Yeah.
3 hours to these games and stuff like that. Like, I want you to be involved in something. I want it to be fun for you. I want you to have enjoyment from it, and get something out of it. But at the end of the day, like, we made a commitment to do something. We're going to stick it through to the end. And if next year you don't want to do it, so be it. But we just got to find whatever that thing is you're interested in.
Okay, so you're a high school educator?
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, you're a high school vice principal.
Yes, sir.
Explain to me, because my nephew is a star, a basketball star. He's going to end up going to the high school I went to in my hometown. I went to school with the coach of the team. He does a zillion travel teams
Hmm.
instead of just doing the middle school team. What I want to understand is when you get into high school, because when I got into high school, I never felt, and I was a track and cross country, like a state caliber, like state rank.
Okay.
Uh, I never felt the idea to do extra.
Mm.
You know what I mean? I know the track and cross country doesn't exactly lend itself to extra. Do you think that once a student gets to high school, that they're, doing the high school experience of playing in high school, that that extra travel is really necessary in order for them to get to a is sort of I suppose a D1 level maybe, but like you and I played Division 3 sports. Do you, for
Mhm.
example, think that like if a kid wanted to play, as a freshman at a D3 school, that they would need to do all that extra work?
To
I
be
mean,
honest,
work is always great, but
yeah.
like, yeah,
So, to be honest with you, when I was coaching at the college level as a grad assistant, I didn't care what club you played for
yeah,
when you were not in season. Quite frankly, I didn't care uh, who what high school you went to. I cared about, were you in shape, were you skilled enough to handle it, and could you flat out play.
yeah,
Um, there are those who will make the argument that I'll use soccer for an example, because that's, I can speak to that. Um, in the United States, and even in Pennsylvania especially, when I was growing up, the club soccer circuit was really getting its legs under it, and
yeah,
the people that could afford to have their kids play, because it was basically pay for play. Like,
yeah,
they went and they did all of these other things. Um, when it came time to for all of us kids to play together at the high school level, it was just another, we it didn't matter. Like, what
yeah,
mattered was, could you play? Could you be a part of this team?
yeah,
And were you willing then, just because you're traveling 3 hours to play some team in, I don't know, Cleveland on a Saturday afternoon, doesn't necessarily mean you can put the ball in the back of the net.
yeah,
um, from my perspective. Um, and was it an advantage because maybe you got exposed to a higher level of competition and stuff like that? You could make that argument, but at the end of the day, um, there's always going to be somebody out there who's more skilled, more talented, than you are, and who's had those same advantages given to them. And you're going to have to figure out a way to compete with them. And I've
hmm,
seen people compete at a high level without those advantages of playing at, you know, these different club teams and stuff like that. Like I said, I didn't have that. That wasn't afforded to me. Um, my parents weren't in a position to, at the time that I was playing, to be able to do that. By the time my youngest brother, who did play at that high level, got there, they were able to do that. But I got to where I am by being willing to compete and put in the work and train and just get better every day. Um, that's really what it kind of comes down to. Are you willing to do what's going to set you apart from everybody else? Because once you get to, let's say you are good enough and gifted enough to be at a D1 level. Well, guess what? Everybody else who's at the D1 level is just as good, if not better than you.
yeah, yeah.
So that's, a long-winded way. I don't think
Yeah,
I don't.
we veered more into the dad talk than the lit
Yeah.
talk on that one. But it interests me because obviously you're at that high school level and you see it every day.
Mhm.
And I wonder about it because I wonder about the expense of it and how much, money goes into it. Because it's a
Yeah.
lot of money and I'm always worried that it's just like, oh man, some guy wants to be a coach. Everybody wants to be a coach. Everyone wants to write the great American novel, and everyone wants to be a coach.
Yep. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I just wonder if all these things exist because there are a zillion dudes that want to be coaches.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like that's where all these leagues come from.
They're all social studies teachers too, from my experience.
They got plenty of time because
Yep.
they're not having to do correct math
Nope.
homework. Yeah, yeah. Dreams,
Yep. Yep.
dreams, dreams of youth. So you also take advantage of this website, which connects you with authors who are looking for reviews. We'll get back to the Dadlet. Can you
Yeah.
tell me about that website and how that works?
Yeah. So it's called Book Tasters, and they are an organization that if you are an author who is looking to um, get some publicity around your book, they have readers out there who the author can get in contact with book tasters and figure out some whatever arrangement they have. I don't know the ins and outs of how they're the author sides of things, but book tasters then will reach out to people like me who are active on Twitter posting about books and stuff like that, and they'll say, hey, would you be interested in receiving like a free copy of an ebook in exchange for an honest review? And that's
Hmm.
how I got started with book tasters. Is I had posted a couple of reviews and got a DM one night on Twitter and just asked me that same question. Hey, we see you're posting a lot about books. Would you be interested in reading some ebooks and posting reviews? And I've been working with them for probably about a year now, and post reviews. And really, there's um, there's not one specific genre that they work with. I've read books of all different kinds of genres, from memoirs to science fiction to um, geez, I think I even did like a weird romance novel back in December, which oddly enough, it was a romance themed novel, but the main character was a like an Israeli Mossad trained agent. So like there was
Nice.
that element of it, and they foiled the really cool terrorist plot. So I'm not counting it as a full on romance novel, but so and you get all kinds of stuff with them. So if you're an author who is looking to get some more publicity out there, get some more eyes on your books, um, something to definitely take a look at. And if you're somebody who's just interested in reading and putting your honest thoughts out there about something that somebody's written, they can be found at Book Tasters on X.
Nice, nice. So now I got a vice principal question for you.
Okay.
So the work in progress I'm doing right now is a horror novel set in a high school, and one of my perspectives is going to be a Rust Belt region vice principal.
Oh, okay.
Yes, the I have three main perspectives. They are a guidance counselor,
Okay.
a vice principal, a high school quarterback, and a an unnamed figure that will be his perspective is going to come through the like diary entries. He's going to be kind of a
Okay.
pot stirrer. Let's call him a
Okay.
pot stirrer. So what do I need to capture a successful vice principal in writing this character? What is a successful vice principal look like? How does he engage with kids versus with his colleagues? What do I need to capture? I know his backstory, so you don't have to
Yep.
give me his backstory.
All right. So
Just tell me about a vice principal.
successful vice principal.
Yeah.
Your successful vice principal, in my opinion, is your guy that's the first one through the door in the morning, turning the lights on, and one of the last people to leave at the end of the day. He's the guy that's there. That's his place. Like it, he cares for the building. What I mean
Oh,
is
okay.
he
I like
looks
to see. This is what I want. This is what I
okay.
want to hear.
He
Yes.
cares for the building. So like he's the guy that, in the morning he makes a lap around the building picking up trash. Or,
Yep.
if he, sees something that's out of place, like he's fixing it because he's got a level of care invested in the building.
Yep.
And then when the kids come through the door, um, he's greeting them with a smile. A successful vice principal is one that the kids, they know his name,
Mhm.
and they don't know his name out of like fear, that or retribution or something like that, but they know his name out of familiarity. He does not sit up in his office and isolate himself, from the teachers and the kids. He's out in the hallways, interacting with kids. He's in classrooms watching what's happening. He's talking to the kids about their interests outside of school, asking about last night's game. He's asking kids what they're learning in class. Um, and the kids know that at the end of the day, if nobody else has got their back, at least that guy does, because
Mhm.
he's got the whole school's best interests at heart.
Nice. This is what I like. This is what I like to hear. Now, how does he interact with other teachers and instructors? What's his engagement with them? Is he going to for example, is he going to be showing up in the teachers lounge? What's his engagement look like?
So he stays away from the teachers' lounge. The teachers' lounge,
Oh,
the
okay.
teachers' lounge for the administrators is, let's call it a snake pit, because you don't want to be in there and hearing things you're not supposed to hear.
Yep.
No, don't go in there. But I say all that to say he's still approachable. He's your go-to guy. He's your fixer. If you got something going on that you don't know what to do, his door is always open.
Yep.
And he's not going to come in the teachers lounge and yuck it up with everybody, because he's still got to maintain an air of impartiality, and objectivity, amongst everybody in the building, because he's got to be able to lead and get stuff done, um, and have, I guess you could say, have influence over people, not necessarily like the puppet master, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, are are vice principals unionized, or are they part of a different association than the teachers?
We're considered management, so we are
Oh,
not
okay.
we are not unionized. My former building, was, well, the teachers were, but my current building that I'm at now, is not.
Okay,
Yeah.
interesting. Now, I got some guidance counselor questions for you.
Okay.
Because until I can find a dad-lit guidance counselor, you're it. Are the guidance counselors also, do they go in the teachers lounge?
Yeah. The
Okay,
guidance
so
the
they're
guidance
they're in the
counselors
teachers.
the guidance counselors are they're not in a supervisory role.
Yeah,
So like they are like I in my previous time in a building, like I supervised the guidance counselors. So
yeah,
like they were, I still had to maintain that dynamic. So they, when it comes to like having those, I don't know what you want to call them, but the more casual relationships with the teachers,
yeah.
they're right there with them.
Okay, nice, nice. Now, if there's any quality that you think the vice principal character should have that might be a flaw, what would that quality be?
Ooh, good question. Good question. A flaw. Characteristic that could be a flaw.
Because he can't be perfect. He's not going to be
No.
a perfect vice.
Mm. He's a perfectionist.
Perfectionist. That'll do it.
You have perfectionist
He'd be
tendencies.
angry. He's just angry all the time.
Yep. Yep. He's got a face that, so that I can speak to this from experience. He's got a face that people always think you're mad.
They always think you're mad.
Yep.
Yep.
And then people, like, once I got to a point with my kids, like the freshmen would be like, what's wrong with this guy? Like, why is he always mad? And the seniors are like, nah, it's just his normal face, guys.
Yeah, he just looks like that. Don't
Yep.
worry about it. Well, we're getting down to the last 10 minutes of the pod. I know it feels like we've only been here for 5 minutes, but I have to keep a clock on it
Yeah.
for Spotify. Uh, Give me some book suggestions, some books that you think, give me three books that dad lit readers should go out and give some time to that are 5 cups of coffee
Ooh.
full.
All right.
Give me three. Give me
Three.
three.
All right. I
Yes.
got you. So first one, um, I got to give the nod to Eli Craner, and his first book that he published was called "Don't Know Tough," and the dad is a central figure in that book. Dad is a football coach, and the dad goes to great lengths in the book, kind of putting himself and his family at odds and at risk at times, by trying to basically like save a troubled kid on his team because he is an incredibly gifted athlete. So it's a awesome book. So that would be number one. Don't Know Tough, by Eli Craner. Second one, um, got to give the nod to, this is a nonfiction one, and it's got some local history for me. It's called American Sirens by Kevin Hazard is the author's name, and it tells the story of Freedom House Ambulance Service, which, if you're not familiar with it, back in the '60s and '70s, um, it was not common for municipalities to have ambulance services. You either got to the hospital one way, or one way was via a police car, or the other one was through a hearse. The local funeral director would give you a ride if you were severely injured. And in Pittsburgh, in the late 1960s and into the 70s, there was a doctor at at the University of Pittsburgh, which became UPMC Medical Center, who had this idea to train paramedics. And he actually then trained the first set of paramedics, who were all from the Hill District in Pittsburgh, which at that point in time, and still is today, is a predominantly African American section of town.
Mhm.
And these men and women became the not only the first, they were the first black paramedics, but they were the first paramedics in America. And Kevin Hazard does a wonderful job of telling this story in American Sirens. It's an awesome book, nonfiction that reads like fiction, just how fast paced and well written it is. And what was cool about it is, just as a side note, one of my teachers at my former building in Pittsburgh, she had mentioned one day in talking that her family, it was from the Hill District in Pittsburgh, um, and how she had lived there her whole life. And she and I got to talking, and I was reading the book at the time. I said, "Hey, do you remember anything growing up about Freedom House Ambulance Service?" And she like looked at me and was like, my aunt used to be their dispatcher. Like she answered the phones for them. So that's a really cool one. It's got some tie-ins for me as a something near and dear to my heart. Um, but also, let's see, third one. Third one. Who I got to give the edge to somebody who has done a lot of supporting of myself on Twitter. This guy's name's Brian Bowyer. He writes horror novels, and I read one of his books a while ago called Autumn Gothic. And if you are a fan of horror in general, and especially the slasher genre, this dude's got you all day. So if you're a dad out there that's looking for the slasher fix, Brian Bowyer's Autumn Gothic would be my third.
Nice. Well, there we go. That's three Dadlit books, Dadlit community.
Yeah.
So get on out there, check them out. It would just again the names are it's by Eli Craner. What's the one by Eli Craner?
Don't know tough.
Don't Know Tough. Then the one by uh the one about
Kevin
the
ha-
fruit.
Kevin
Yeah,
Hazard. It's Kevin Hazard. He's the author. The book's name is American Sirens.
great. And then Brian Boyer's book
Autumn Gothic.
by Brian Boyer. Well, awesome. Well, Brandon, it's been awesome to have you. You're still officially the first Dadlet podcast of all time, even if it did get deleted. And Brandon, believe it or not, has a copy of The American, The Lifetimes and
Yes.
War of Basil Antonelli, first edition by yours truly, Dan Roberts, available on Amazon. My wife reminded me that I should plug my book occasionally. And I hope that I'll get a review of that coming
Oh,
up at some
absolutely,
point in
man.
the newsletter. And
Absolutely.
that's available on Amazon. So well,
Nice.
thank you so much, Brandon. And this has been another episode of the Dadlet Pod.